Rakdos has returned to the Tainted Grail. This time we're going to be doing something a little bit different. A very high difficulty run with the Pathfinder. I recorded this one in preparation for my True Pathfinder video, and I realized I don't have all of the Pathfinder talents unlocked yet. There's quite a few that I'm missing. Not a class that I've played too much of. This was really the first run that I had played of the Pathfinder after I beat the Avalonian with them one time just to kind of feel them out. So we prep and try to see if we can understand how this class works. And because of that, this won't be necessarily a guide to the Pathfinder. This is just me tinkering around and figuring a couple things out. Once I've played a couple more games with them, I'll feel more comfortable definitively telling you what is the best thing to do. I'll have seen all of their different passives, and I'll be able to know the extent of their power. Right now, there still could be some things that they can do that are hidden to me, so if you like watching just a traditional run, this is going to be a lot more casual. This will be more you learn along with me as I learn, as opposed to me kind of telling you already what I believe the best thing is. And yeah, we'll see exactly how it goes. The beginning is going to look pretty similar. The opening strat to this I have down to a science now. Essentially, you just want to take the first two fights to the left and the right without candlelight. This is going to give you a lot of leeway with your candlelight for the rest of the run. And even if you don't have the candlemaker leveled up too high, just doing this small thing will save enough candlelight to allow you to take most fights in high light. For the majority of the run, at least. So, a little bit about the Pathfinder and basics. The Pathfinder is a very slow burning class, a slow rolling class. Essentially, they gain power by not taking damage. They stack up a 50% damage increase for every turn that they do not take damage. Now, immediately, you can recognize that as being something that is rather slow to get going. 50% for one whole turn. This may seem even weak compared to the Apostate, which I just released a video on, who can achieve plus 300 to 400% damage with just playing a single card, and can easily achieve plus 500%, plus 1,000%, plus 10,000% damage increases rather easily. To have the built-in scaling mechanic of this class be a small 50% damage increase, and having that increase being directly tied to the amount of turns that have passed in the battle, you might be thinking that this class is strictly inferior to a class like the Apostate. I would say that the Apostate certainly has many advantages over this class, but something I believe the Pathfinder has is a undeniable durability. Essentially, if you get hit with this class and your damage bonus gets reduced back down to 0, it can be very hard to win the fight. Even taking a single hit in the middle of a fight can really reset your damage and make it much harder to win, especially against enemies that scale very well or very quickly. Certain enemies get out of control rather fast in this game. So, how do we defend ourselves? How can we compare to the Apostate's defense or the defense of some of the other classes? Well, we have block. Block being incredible for defending us, and the Pathfinder being one of the only classes that can use block offensively. They do start with a card in their deck that deals multiplicative damage depending on how many blocks you have, and most of their passives will give you blocks or give you options to block attacks at specific times. So here we're given an option. When focused, we get extra energy, or we could get additional ultimate charges each turn, or we can gain extra damage every single time we draw additional cards. Here we choose to get a discount on our maneuvers whenever we have our focus. This is going to allow us to just do more each turn and ensure that we can block as many attacks as possible. And right away, we find an enemy that can be a huge issue for the Pathfinder. This particular enemy attacks a lot, and the longer you let it go, the more times it attacks and the more damage it does. This monster does scale rather quickly, but the issue is that it attacks so many times. Remember, with the Pathfinder, you need to block every single hit, every single turn. An ideal Pathfinder run, you will go through the entire game without getting hit. Sometimes, if you get hit early, it won't matter as much because you will not have had time to stack up your damage. But after 3 or 4 turns of stacking your damage, you really don't want to lose it. You really do feel that damage loss. As you can see, I get hit here and lost so much damage. And although I make it through, having to reset from that point is very, very difficult. Thankfully, we are utilizing our discount for having focus. And being able to stun this enemy is huge. As long as we can keep stunning it, we will win no matter what. That's why taking the first couple fights with no candle is generally fine with almost any class. I get a very powerful negative weird card, a very powerful negative tainted force here. We're going to see if we can end it. I don't think we can. Our damage is pretty bad. Maybe. Yes, we did have enough. Just enough. Awesome. Let's see if it gives us another card choice here. Nope. The card that I took so far is a card that boosts our damage the turn that we play it. It's not an incredible card, but if we can land our duplicate a couple times at the end of our turns and stack it up, then we can cast it for maybe a big finish, is what I'm initially thinking. In the future Pathfinder runs, I will not take this card. It just doesn't do enough. Although we have insight to duplicate it, there are just other things that are better to duplicate. And speaking of insight, it is our ability as the Pathfinder and allows us to duplicate the next maneuver that we play. There are a lot of powerful maneuvers in Pathfinder, so this is a phenomenal ability to have, in my opinion. What makes it even better is if you really don't need the defense in specific turns, you can end up inciting at the end of the turn, and what that does is what you're seeing here, stack up multiple insights on top of each other. So you end up getting a double, triple, quadruple duplicate in certain circumstances if you don't need to cast maneuvers for those turns. Very unlikely you can go that many turns without needing to cast a maneuver and reset the chain, but it can happen. It all depends on what cards you have in your deck. You might have the enemies perma-stunned. Some of the attack cards can stun. You might not be fighting very many enemies, so you never know. The Pathfinder is another reason why I really like the blocking flute. If you're not aware, at some point you're going to get a flute, It has many different modes or songs that it can play, and all of them offer a temporary defensive boost. I really like the flute that offers 2 blocks. I find having access to blocks in classes that don't normally block, like the summoners or the apostates kind of classes, they're very powerful. And when you add blocks on top of classes that can already block, like the children here, I think that it is phenomenal defense. So you really can't go wrong. And I do think that in general, blocks are a little bit more safer than barriers. Under certain circumstances, barriers are better, but I think more often than not, having more blocks is just a little bit safer. In those scenarios, although I can't think of all of them, immediate ones that pop into my mind are when you as a player or champion have been reduced to negative armor. Maybe you have 100 or 200 negative armor. Then it's very hard to stockpile up enough barrier to defend yourself, especially because a lot of times barrier cards give you barrier based on your armor value. So if somehow you ended up with negative armor, barrier might not be a great defense. Block, on the other hand, does not care about how much armor you have, ever, and always defends you for 100% of the damage value of the attack. The only thing you really have to worry about is, like I stated earlier, multi-attacking enemies. When you are playing the Pathfinder, it is incredibly important to identify what enemies in each pack will be multi-attacking, to know how much they're going to be multi-attacking for, and to know your deck's capabilities. You can see pretty easily how many blocks you're able to achieve on any given turn. If you're expending all 3 of your energy and you can only make 3 to 4 block, then when you're looking at enemy packs, if you see that they can do 6 or 7 attacks in one turn, then you're not ready to fight that pack yet. You need to go get some more cards, fight some easier packs, or packs that just don't have multi-attacking enemies, until you can reliably create 6 block or 7 block in a turn. Maybe you need more talents that will allow you to gain more block, or maybe you need more stuns. But whatever the case is, analyze your enemies. Here we get another card choice. I think Hold Breath is what we take here. Like I said, when you're playing this class, ignore armor. You do not need it. Stuff that reduces your armor doesn't matter. And boosting your own armor is not important to you. So Hold Breath seems really good. It's going to be free for me, and it's going to let me play a little bit more each turn. Free maneuvers are very good on the Pathfinder because every time you play a maneuver, it charges up your ultimate ability. And I think that's a decent segue to talk about the ultimate ability. The ultimate ability of the Pathfinder is pretty weird, actually. It doesn't even feel like an ultimate ability. It feels more like a passive. So as you play maneuvers, it charges up to 12 charges. And every 3 charges, it's going to give you one of 2 benefits. It will either draw you an additional card or give you an additional energy. So if you have 3 charges, you draw an extra card. 6 charges, you draw an extra card and get an additional energy. 9 charges, you're going to draw 2 cards and gain 1 energy. And finally, if it's maxed out at 12, you're going to draw 2 cards and gain 2 energy. Lots of the passives within the Pathfinder will allow your ultimate to do more, so at least it has many things behind it that will change its functionality and make it better, but it still is not as flashy as some of the other ultimates from some of the other classes. So we play our 2 maneuvers, and you can see our ultimate start stacking up here. randomly throwing out Onslaught just because it's free, I guess. And this class does also struggle with certain fights like this, simply because it lacks the ability to be explosive and to deal a lot or do a lot on turn 1. So we should have done this before we threw out the Onslaught, reduce the armor there, but that was kind of the only option. Just in case you don't know, when you stun an enemy, if you stun them again, instead of prolonging the stun, it reduces their armor permanently by 25. So, something that comes built into the kit of the Pathfinder is the ability to use Insight and duplicate stun. So that's going to stun the enemy and then stun them again, reducing their armor permanently. It's a lot of energy to do something very minor. It's not very strictly powerful, but it is something that you can do if you need to. And in this fight, we really needed to, because when you're on difficulty 17, the enemies start with so much armor that you need to have a plan. You need to have an armor reduction plan for every single class to even be able to handle certain enemies. They can easily start with max armor. I've seen certain enemies that are supposed to be heavily armored can start with all the way up to 75. So every turn after our first is much more powerful, because after the first turn we will become focused. And there is a talent that allows you to be focused on turn 1. And I rate that talent very highly. Like I said, I haven't seen all of the Pathfinder talents, but what that talent essentially lets you do is treat the fight as though one extra turn has passed. And that's pretty good. Not to mention immediately triggering all effects that require you to be focused. So now you can see my damage is actually starting to get there. But it's a combination of my damage increasing and me reducing the armor of the enemy. I think we decide to gain an extra energy here just to finish off the Rhino. Nope, we don't. We conserve. 3 attacks coming at us. We know we're going to be able to kill the Rhino. Really lucky we're taking these fights in high light. You do want to be taking fights in high light. And we're just best thinking about if we can get to 9 ultimate charges before we hit the button. Because you kind of don't want to hit the button if it's between the 2 waypoints, between the 3, 6, 9, or 12. If it's not on one of those, you're kind of losing a tiny bit of value by hitting it. If you need to, still do it. Don't worry about it. But just so you know, that is the way to kind of squeeze the most effectiveness out of this one. Let's see if we hit it here. Draw 2 cards, gain an energy. Those 2 cards need to be really good. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to. And now with 1 enemy left, this should be really easy. Peace out, Wisp. All right, did we level? No. We already have a polished calc, which is great. We want to start removing cards from our deck. I'm a little lost at first on what to remove, but never feel bad about removing the small strikes or the basic attack cards. Those are great cards to remove. Later on, when you have access to cards that give you multiple blocks, then it is entirely acceptable to remove some of the block cards from your deck as well. And even the stun card. It's way too expensive for what it does. The stun card can be removed pretty easily without much of a notice, you're probably just going to be blocking all the attacks anyway. I think I take a look at that fight and I realize that they do too many multi-attacks for me to take right now. And this fight, I know each enemy only ever hits one time. So I know that I can make 3 blocks a turn. This should be okay. Although I realize now if I get hit even once, it's going to hurt really bad. These guys might not hit multiple times, but they hit very hard. I think this is a pretty good time to talk about the psychology of my turns. Give you an in-depth look on how my mind works and what I'm prioritizing here. So every single turn, my first thought is to look at the enemy's attacks and count how many attacks are coming at me. As soon as I know that number, I try to look at my hand and create a plan for either creating that much block or killing an enemy who is attacking multiple times that will require me to block less. As soon as I assess all of these things, I look at my ultimate meter and I see exactly how many cards I need to play to get to my next threshold, my 3, 6, 9, or 12. After I know that number, I can kind of get a good gauge on how many maneuvers I'm going to play that turn and what I'm exactly going to play before I start doing my attacks. Because typically, with the Pathfinder, you do want to play your maneuvers before you attack. Your maneuvers will make your attacks stronger because many of your maneuvers will give you block. Each of those blocks will directly increase the power of your onslaught cards and allow for many of your passives to trigger, either drawing you extra cards or giving you some other minor benefit for having many blocks. So think about it this way. Your offense and your defense are both reliant on you having as many blocks as possible. So your goal, as soon as you start the class, is to first find maneuvers that block multiple times. The best maneuvers in this class are the ones that give you more than one block for the energy that they cost. The 3 that I know of that are very powerful are Lopsided Defense, I do believe it's called, which gives you 2 blocks for 1 energy and reduces your armor for the end of the battle. Remember, we don't care about how much armor we lose. Our armor value will never matter. We're going to block every attack. Lopsided Defense is, I think, one of the better cards in this class. There's also a card that gives you a block for every enemy on the battlefield. That is a very, very strong block card. And lastly, there is a Desperate Block card that is 2 energy that allows you to gain 5 blocks, but you lose 1 energy at the beginning of your next turn. I think that's absolutely fine. For 5 blocks for 2 energy, you're going to lose that energy on the next turn, but most enemies don't attack with many attacks many turns in a row. They'll build up to a big multi-attack and then have to kind of recharge for the most part, at least from my experience and what I've seen. So typically those 3 choices are what you're looking for first and foremost. I haven't unlocked all the cards and I don't know all the passives, so like I said, this isn't a true Pathfinder guide by any stretch of the imagination, but just to make you aware of the general play style, you're going to build up a mountain of blocks that no amount of enemies can overcome, and then you will cast Onslaught as many times as possible to tear your enemies apart. You will want to focus on removing certain useless maneuvers from your deck and a lot of the useless attacks from your deck. This is going to allow you to add some really good cards without making your deck too large. Hopefully with the right talents, you're going to be able to draw most of your deck every single turn, especially if you can play enough maneuvers to use your ultimate consistently. And then you just stay perfectly defended and do as much damage as you can. It's not phenomenal damage compared to some of the other classes, but I mean, if you play it right, you're invincible. So you're going to eventually get there. And it might seem like going through 6 or 7 turns each combat is going to make the game take longer. And it does to some degree, but it doesn't make it take too much longer because each individual turn is very fast. Since you're not doing crazy combos or anything like that, you don't have a lot of energy or energy manipulation, so you really just play your couple cards for your turn and end. Here's our choices. We draw an additional card for each unused block, a really good one. Whenever you use your ultimate ability, draw 2 additional cards. That's okay. Normally you have more cards than energy, so not as helpful. If you finish your turn with at least 3 cards in your hand, gain 1 block. I really like this. You don't have a lot of energy in the beginning, so most of the time you're going to end up with 3 cards in your hand. So this is pretty much just a free block. And if you think about a block being equivalent to an energy, this is kind of like a free energy every single turn that we get that can only be used to, give us a block. So yeah, that's very, very good. An easy sacrifice of HP here. I think we go for the experience. Experience is good only in certain situations. I think it's good when you just need to get a little bit stronger to handle the area. Here we're given the choice. We don't want armor, so we can totally ignore that maneuver over there. Crippling attack is pretty dang good. It's so much better than the maneuver stun to stun an enemy for the most part. It has certain restrictions, but it has many other benefits as well. So we pick it up here just in case. Now I think we can take the fight down here that has the enemy that multi-attacks. This is the fight that I was afraid of before. I didn't want to take this fight because of the enemy on the right over here. Wanted to be 100% sure that I could block all of the hits. Lo and behold, the enemy on the left is attacking 2 times as well. So I need to have 5 block this turn. That's my very first thought. I do have a stun, so I could stun guy on the right. See, this is why armor and damage reduction is totally worthless on this class. I mean, it's turn 1, so I'm not going to lose any damage by taking damage this turn. But still, it doesn't matter how much we reduce their damage by. If we take even 1 point of damage, we lose all of our stacks, every single one of them. So if it's turn 6 or 7 and we take 1 point because we've armored up and we have spent energy reducing our enemy's damage, we still get set back. So we can't rely on those 2 things. Any card that reduces your enemy's damage or any card that gives you armor is automatically devalued in this class. Four attacks coming in. We only have block. Thankfully, we took the talent that is going to give us a free block at the end of the turn. We do not duplicate the block because we plan on stunning that enemy. So now we are fully defended, even more so because we're going to gain a free block at the end. Unless we play too many cards, which we might here because we have Hold Breath. Hold Breath being very, very good. Super, super good. Highly recommend cards like that. They are just free progress towards your ultimate that can be very powerful. It's just very hard to actually get it stacked up. Most other classes have really devious ways to get their ultimate stacked up to max in the first turn. I don't think it's as easy for the Pathfinder to do something like that. So I did have a duplicate stored up from the last turn. at the beginning of this turn, I had a cost reduction, so I got to duplicate the stun. That's going to reduce the armor of the enemy. I really want that enemy just dead, so I don't have to keep dealing with them. Their positive armor still makes my damage pitiful, so I need to wait even longer. We stack up a duplicate for next turn. Having a duplicate set up for next turn is always smart if you don't know what you're going to be able to do, if you don't know if you can kill the enemy or how much damage they're going to be inputting. We know for sure we're going to have to use our button here, so we press the button before we play any more maneuvers. Any maneuvers we play is worthless until we can get to 12. So if we can only get to 10 or 11, there's no point. So we go ahead and hit the button. Now we're thinking about what to duplicate. We can duplicate block if we can't stun. We did draw stun. I think that's the route we're going to take. So we duplicated the damage this turn, or no, we can just kill because we duplicated the damage. And now we get a free block at the end of the turn for just having 3 cards in our hand, so we can just play all the damage cards. Used our free block. Remembering your free block. Once you take that passive, remember your free block. We just keep this guy locked down and stunned, and we stack up our duplicate. Very slowly getting stronger here. That armor reduction should help. And as you can see, even though it is very expensive to duplicate the stun card, it still can happen. And that's why I don't remove stun here, is because it is possible sometimes to set up. And this class really needs it. It really needs armor reduction, especially in higher difficulties. Drawing and crippling attack in turn 1 is really good here. That alone fully defends us because we're going to get our free block. We decide to block anyway, maybe to increase our damage that we're going to do. If we play some onslaughts, yeah, we do play some onslaughts. I'm not sure if that was fully worth, but quite a few attacks incoming here. We can easily handle it with the amount of blocks we have and the passives we have. We have a lot of 0 cost cards though, so that might make getting our free block at the end a little tough. We don't need the free block at the end. We are already fully defended. So now we can just play our cards. Might as well play all in before we deal the damage. We're thinking about maybe pressing the button before we hit all in. Nope. Only 1 attack. Our passive would have stopped that, so may not have needed to play that card there. Could have played it to just progress our ultimate or deal a little bit more damage with the onslaught. Yeah, I think ultimate progression for 1 was probably why we did that there. Now we can ultimate for 9. Oh, we're going for the 12. Another thing to remember, cards that are duplicated do not count toward your ultimate. And to be perfectly clear, what I mean by that is that the original card you play will count, but the duplicate, the secondary card played, or any other duplicates will not count towards your ultimate charge. Which I actually think that they should change that, because it would allow this class to get a little bit more out of control. Maybe changing that would actually change how some other interactions work, which would make some other things a little bit too busted. And I hope that that's not the case, because this is an easy change that you could make to this class and give it a lot more just aggression and teeth. Because it starts with insight, you're going to be duplicating. So every single time you insight and then play, let's say, insight block, you get 2 blocks and you would get 3 charges of your ultimate instead of just 2. That's pretty big. Yep, we can merge there. I think we end up using that. It reduces the armor of the enemies. Yeah, Polish Calc we keep for now, but if we get free space, that's pretty good. Always trying to thin our deck. I don't think we would ever take the health here. Don't you do it. Because I'm even considering the health, it made me think that I took the health. Because to me, it's obvious not to, but I think I try to keep the deck balanced. I think I remove either 2 attacks, an attack, a small strikes, maybe a block and an attack. I don't think I remove a block yet because I don't have any better block cards. So I know onslaughts are my primary damage attack. And this normal attack card and small strikes kind of is bad too. It's efficient damage-wise for the energy cost. But because it hits random targets, certain fights make it just awful. There are certain fights where you really need to kill a specific enemy. And small strikes just can do more harm than good in some cases. Random darkness event. We quickly move forward, grab a weird candle, scope out the fight. Looks like we can take it. We debated for a moment because that guy on the right. We're always very wary about that guy. Anytime we see a pack with him in it, we got to really consider, because we do not want to get hit. And on any random turn where we don't draw a lot of defense, he might be able to hit us. That's why we're focusing him first. Just need him out of the picture, then this fight is free. We set up a duplicate for next turn. Pretty smart to do so. Not a lot of defense in this turn. Maybe we insight and then block, get 3 blocks. That seems pretty nice because then we get a free block if we have enough cards in our hand. We just got to make sure that happens. Kind of unfortunate we drew some 0 costs here, but we might just have to make some sacrifices. That's what we're thinking about now. Of those, it's probably better to play the maneuvers just to increase our ultimate counter, I think to myself. Then I can use that to draw more cards. And I think I might have even been wrong about how many cards that this guy draws from the ultimate ability. I just saw myself draw 2 cards there. And by how I understood it, it should have only drew 1. But yeah, I might have misinterpreted the extent of the ultimate ability. Hopefully I get a chance to inspect that at some point. Yep, 6 attacks, you get stunned right away, even though I think I have the kill. I just see 6 attacks and I'm like, nope. Yeah, I had the kill and I just straight away. Well, maybe not. No, yeah. I can definitely onslaught for the kill here. But since he's stunned, I don't. I let the abomination get the kill. And now the fight is free. We stack up damage. That's an example right there of how that maneuver can be pretty good when we duplicate it 2 or 3 times for free because we've stacked up a couple of our insights. Then we can actually gain a pretty significant damage boost. It's no overdraw. Let's be real. It's no overdraw or furious overdraw. But it's the best we can do, okay? Keep the abomination stunned. Keep this dude from healing. Yep, and end the turn with the insight. Setting up the duplicate for next turn. Really remembering to do that is huge for this class, because I think that so many people start their turn with insight and duplicate the card that they think is going to help them handle the turn the best. And you might just handle that turn pretty well, but the next turn might challenge you even more than the previous turn. And if you don't have a duplicate to help you out, you really might be screwed. Get our first rare runestone here. It's pretty comparable with what we are rocking right now in our armor. But I think that starting with 30 is a little bit better than starting with 17. Even though armor's not important to us in a big way, just in case it matters somehow, it is a little bit more efficient to start with 30 and lose 5 each turn than to start with 17 and remain at 17. And I think now we decide we can switch out of the calc and over to the stand and reduce the enemy's armor. Where, like, if we just had a little bit more damage, we'd be able to get out of these fights a lot easier. We wouldn't have to use as much effort to get damage out. Switch to a couple consumables that we know we can just use and not feel bad about it to help us in our future fights. Probably pop a candle before this fight as well, yeah. A really easy one. I don't think either of these enemies can multi-attack. If one of them can, it's the guy on the left, and he can do a triple multi-attack. But this should be pretty easy to handle. We're already fully blocked due to the passive. So we can just do that. Set up the block. Gain the benefit of the Tainted Force, which reduced a couple of our cards to 0. Now, we do kind of need our free block here, unless we want to use our flute, which we could. Remembering to use the flute each fight, you know, try to get some value out of it, even if it's just a little bit of damage out of Onslaught. We decide to use the book to draw some cards, okay. And we just draw more damage. But that's fine, because now we can still get our free block by ending the turn with cards in our hand. So it works out either way. We still have to go without playing certain cards, but we can play Hold Breath, have something reduced, and then just not play it. Or we can just play Onslaught. But I think playing Hold Breath is better, because it gives us... Well, we do have quite a bit of damage for this turn. Oh, wow, we're really... really just trying to pretend we're a combo deck here in turn 1. We get our second block, so now we don't need to rely on our passive, and we can actually play both of our Onslaughts. Wow. And I used the flute to gain damage with these Onslaughts as well. Wow, that was a combo deck turn. I'm like cosplaying the apostate here. That was pretty cool. So we double stun to reduce the armor. Set up our duplicate. We can double duplicate if we need to. We don't really need to. We're going to duplicate our Hold Breath to see if we can do some more damage. No, we do double duplicate. Do we triple hold breath? No, we just hold. We just end our turn with 3 cards, let him ping off of our block, and get a triple duplicate opportunity next turn. Dang, we didn't draw anything phenomenal, but even having a lot of blocks on this turn will be very impactful. Oh, I'm not even going to pull the trigger on it, because he's dead anyway. Good call, me. Just end the fight. I just wanted the combos to continue. I don't really think I've ever bought anything from the Cursed Healer in my entire time playing this game. Love the character, though. Still stealing all of the weird candles, and we do decide to take the treasure hoard fight before the boss. Typically, that's what you'll do, just to make sure you're as strong as possible for that boss. Pretty good Tainted Force here. 2-turn stun on all enemies is nice. I wonder if I use it. I think I do. They're not immune to stun. It'd give me a little bit of time to just set up my damage, set up my duplicates if I wanted to. We're doing something a little bit different here. Setting up 2 blocks. Here's one of those situations where small strikes kinda isn't great. We really just want to kill the middle guy in this fight, if at all possible. Sometimes you have to kill the side guys, but you really don't want to. If you don't have to, waste damage on them. So we decided not to play that Tainted Force, which is going to reduce the cost of some of these cards or give us a damage bonus or something. I didn't see what the secondary effect was. Hopefully it was worth it. Stun, stun, stun. Reduce the armor of the middle guy. That's our main target. We get our free block. Nice. Now, if we hover over, we see that he's attacking the allies, so his damage is not coming at us. All we have to do is shut down the guy on the left, and we're safe. Are we just going to try to get... Yep, we're just going to try to block 4 times. Then we'll block the 3 attacks on the left and the 4th attack on the right. And that does it. And as you can see, we just used all of our energy and naturally just have 3 cards left in our hand. Very, very good passive. Alright, our damage is stacking up quite a bit. We decided we want to get the armor reduced because we don't have too much longer before the enemies start doing lots of damage. Really nice to draw a crippling attack here for the guy on the right. And he's almost dead just from crippling attack damage. It's so nice that that deals a decent amount of damage as well. I should have used all in before that, and I realized this. But it's okay. It's kind of inefficient to hit this out of 11 out of 12, but I think I might still do it. That's what I was saying. I'm not getting anything for it being at 11 out of 12 versus 9 out of 12, from what I understand. And there I drew 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you draw a card for every... at every tier, but you only gain energy every 2 tiers. Okay, that makes sense. Now I understand it. And if it's any indication of how easy the Pathfinder is to play, I truly just now fully learned how the ultimate works, and I was able to beat this run on difficulty 17. So yeah, you can definitely pick up this game and have just as much fun. Ooh, nice. We get an armor reduction, Tainted Force. This fight shouldn't last too much longer. Our damage should be pretty high now that their armor's in the negatives. We choose to wait till next turn. A turn that we have all in. Let's see. Insight, all in. Hold breath. Use the passive. No, we're just gonna I was gonna say we're just gonna first slash. Let's see. Yeah, we can just kill these guys on the side now with how much damage we have. And now that they're dead, they attack their master. They have one turn where they attack their master. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of damage they're dealing. Do they just assassinate their master? Oh my... That actually was amazing. How did I forget that that happened? Out of these three, we absolutely choose Steel Eater. Targeted block is amazing, but it's still only one block for one energy. You really want to start to do better than one block for one energy. Celestial Dagger can be pretty good. I didn't find much success with it, but I can imagine it can be pretty good. Just really anything that gives you block is great. But Steel Eater is permanent armor reduction, and I feel I've already stressed it enough, but reducing your enemy's armor is the only true way to get significant damage dealt to them. We unlock a new passive here, that Focused Mind. Increase damage by 25% for each instance of focus. That's pretty dang good. That makes focus way better. Instead of it being a 50% damage boost, it's a 75% damage boost. I love Annihilator. It's really, really good to boost your max damage. Delayed Punishment, whenever you play 4 or more cards in a turn. Next hit deals triple damage. That's not as good as it sounds. The triple damage, I mean, that would be a nice one to have after you're already set up and established. Right there, we unfortunately do not get another Runestone slot, so we just take the base damage. Anything to help us get a little bit more powerful. We decide to clean up the other fights in the area before the Golem, because we really just want to outscale the area, and by getting as much experience from the first zone as you can, you set yourself up to be in a better position for the next couple zones. These fights are as easy as they're going to get, pretty much. We get to see the power of Steel Eater here, a card that will get better as we get better. When the turns pass and we get more powerful, Steel Eater will become more powerful. A very well designed card. Love that card. We are going to eat the Toxin Rhino's steel here. Unfortunately, the unit on the right cannot be stunned. That's really the unit that I'd like to kill first, if possible, but I really don't see that happening with this guy. So we just let him explode. Facing 3 attacks. Priority 1. Set up your blocks. If I cast block 1 time, it'll get duplicated. Then I can end my turn and gain a block, so I'll have 3. So, bam, now I am fully protected as long as I have 3 cards in my hand at the end. That might be kind of tough with the way that my hand is looking here, so I'm just calculating what I can play. We always want to play our Onslaught. And even with the much higher armor that unit has, after being buffed, I was still able to kill it because I gained a lot of power in those last couple upgrades. That passive upgrade I have a damage boost now from the treasure hoard. My focus is doing more. I'm a lot more powerful. We duplicate the all-in. I've now climbed my way all the way up to 400%. The staggering heights of 400%. But it's not bad. With the negative armor and the damage boost, it's still respectable damage. I can stretch for the kill if I use my ultimate here. There's no point in using hold breath beforehand because it will take me from 7 to 8 and not to 9. Just pass the turn. Focus on killing this turn. Definitely can't kill all of them. I think first slash plus regular attack does it. Oh wow, just the first slash. Nice. Feels bad to use Steel Eater on these little grubs, but I just need to. This should kill. Yep. And we still have to wait one more turn. We probably could have got it with our ultimate there, but the turns are fast. You know, they don't take too long. Flip the turn, get the damage boost, get the kill. Oh, we're playing with our food here, it seems. we're flexing our power. We're like, all right, yeah, this is the Pathfinder. Maybe at this point, I still think that this could be the true Pathfinder video, so I'm trying to like flex the extent of the power, but there's got to be something else to this class. I did end up taking this run all the way to the secret final boss, and I did end up placing on the scoreboard in a pretty respectable position, not insanely high, but I still think that with the passives I have yet to unlock and the cards I have yet to unlock, there might be something else this class can do based on how high the scores were, the top scores were, how much higher than mine. I definitely think there's something I'm missing. So before we claim that we know the true Pathfinder play style, we're gonna just play around with them a little bit more, and hopefully you guys don't mind watching. Probably one of the better turn ones we've had in quite some time. Doing any damage in turn 1 as the Pathfinder is miraculous. Steel Eater is making it happen for us. There we go. No incoming attacks, so we really can set ourselves up. I think that's a turn 2 kill. Quite possibly. With the Pathfinder on that one guy. Not bad, not bad. Turn 3 fight finish. An easy fight, but still. Although our damage stacks up slowly, our deck can really render enemies pretty weak while having a super powerful defense. Always love to see the training grounds. Probably one of the best events you can run across. Thankfully getting crippling attack in the opening turn. Not having to focus on defense here, we can really set ourselves up. Yeah, we're like, okay, who are we going to kill first? Probably the one with the less HP. Give ourselves a duplicate for next turn. There's our friend the Steel Eater. And what kind of Tainted Force were we blessed with? Always have super highlight before you take this challenge. Always. You definitely want very highlight and very good Tainted Forces in this one. Alright, I'm already fully defended. Always love armor reduction. Ooh, nice choice. We Steel Eater the enemy with higher armor to make sure that he's easier to kill later on. As long as we end with 3 cards, we get an extra block. We remain fully defended. The ogre is charging up, so we just have to worry about 1 defense here, 1 block. Maybe not even 1 if we can just get this guy dead. Nope, we tried. Small strikes, why? Three more attacks from the big ogre in the back. But we did draw Steel Eater again. We set up 2 blocks there. We could still use our flute if we needed to. But we don't need to. And because we knew we were not going to use the passive, we had to play that extra block there. The 3rd Steel Eater we get to play on this poor ogre while it's not attacking us. I gained some blocks just because I know I'm going to play Onslaught for some damage here. And I knew that I needed that damage to get the kill. Every block you have makes Onslaught do a lot more damage. So even with 2 blocks, I really like raw power on this class. You can always raw power yourself. Double block's a pretty good choice if you don't have a stable way to block currently. But if it's against something like raw power, I think you gotta just choose raw power. It can be duplicated, triplicated, and the negative armor on yourself is never gonna matter. Never a real reason to put it on an enemy. Maybe you could, but I think that it's just a much better self buff than the one that I'm currently using, which is 1 energy to do pretty much the same thing. You don't get the negative armor for the one that I'm using, but the negative armor doesn't matter. So I would much rather have my maneuver be free than to be casting all in, which is the one I'm comparing this to, and having it be 1 whole energy. So my plan is to take this raw power and remove the all in. I guess I could have kept both just for the double damage increase, but no, I don't think that's necessary. You always get a legendary rune when you beat that encounter in that way. And what's amazing about this is now you can trade this legendary rune for the very small price of 100 to the blacksmith to continuously re-roll it until you get a year rune. And if you don't want a year rune, then you can get another amazing legendary rune, but I highly recommend you get the year rune. And the golem fight. Let's see how we do. Was that the stunning Tainted Force? No, that's the damage, 200% damage. Yeah, I guess we can do that. And we can raw power ourselves for free, as long as we can block all this damage or kill all these enemies. Ooh, the duplicate raw power. Pushing ourselves up to 400% damage in turn 1. Pretty impressive for this class. Other classes, not so much, but this class, that's quite a bit. That would take like 6 or 7 turns or something like that to accomplish just through letting the passive stack naturally without any passives to enhance it. We kill all of the little ones and start reducing the armor. And really, we can just block this guy's attacks forever. He never can do more multi-attacks than 3. And because we get our free block for having 3 cards in our hand, and we can insight our blocks so many times, really, the fight is already over. The downside to the gamble cards that he gives us is a negative to our armor, which we don't care about. So we can freely play the gambles. And those are super good for our deck because they not only give us a block, which will boost up our damage, but they also give us an energy, which will allow us to play more cards. Oh wow, we go for the duplicate stun for the armor reduction. The golem does count as being stunned twice, so he summons 2 pretty high HP little golem buddies. Still focusing our armor reduction on the primary golem. No. Do we switch? Yes, actually we do. Yeah, and that's smart because we really do just need to keep killing the adds that he summons and reducing his armor till he has such low armor that we just kill him with 1 attack. That's a very valid strategy for this fight. Oh, can we even kill the left one this turn? Oh, wow. And we get that to do damage to the one on the right. Very, very strong. We should be able to kill the one on the right this turn, and then we're back to just fighting the large one with a huge armor reduction. Yeah, this fight swings in our favor pretty swiftly. Very clean golem fight here for the Pathfinder. I think I forget to put items on my combat slots for a very long time during this run. I think that I have just like this huge like streak of inefficiency, and I notice it and I just keep forgetting to change it. We'll see. I look forward to seeing. And definitely thank you guys for watching. Not necessarily a guide, but a Pathfinder run that I thought was interesting enough. And if you guys want to learn the Pathfinder along with me, I definitely welcome your company and your questions. If you found this run entertaining or educational, definitely give it a like. I appreciate you watching, and as always, peace, peace.
This feels like an echo of something that happened.